Welcome everyone to the program. The Supreme Court is expected to deliver judgment on the governorship primaries of the All Progressives Congress APC in Bayelsa State today, as the party's candidate and governor-elect, Mr. David Leon, prepares to take his oath of office on Friday. The Federal High Court in Yenagoa had on November the 14th, 2019, nullified Mr. Leon's candidacy and ruled out APC from the contest, following a suit filed by Senator Heineken Lukwubiri, who was one of the APC governorship aspirants. Mr. Lukwubiri, who is a former Minister of State for Agriculture, had approached the court asking it to declare him and not Mr. Leon the authentic candidate of the APC. He told the court that the governorship primary conducted by the party in Bayelsa State was not done in compliance with the guidelines and constitution of the party, and therefore concluded that the party had no candidate. But the Court of Appeal in Port Harcourt overturned the High Court's decision last month, declaring that the APC had a candidate in the November 16, 2019 governorship election. The decision of the Apex Court today will determine whether or not Mr. David Leon will be sworn in on Friday. The national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Mr. Uche Secondus, and some members of the party's National Working Committee appeared before the Lagos State High Court to stop a contempt of court proceedings brought against them. The proceeding was as a result of an alleged disobedience to a court order of November 12, 2019, restraining Mr. Secondus and the National Working Committee from conducting a special election for the vacant offices at the Lagos State chapter of the party. Justice Taofiat Oyekon Abdullahi expressed dismay that the Lagos PDP proceeded to conduct the election despite the knowledge of the case and pending application for interlocutory injunction. At the proceedings, counsel to the claimant informed the court of his client's pending application seeking for extension of time to file their response to the preliminary objection filed by the respondents. And after listening to arguments on the objection, the judge fixed March 12 to hear the contempt proceedings. Staying in the courtroom, a federal high court sitting in Abuja has granted the former Attorney General of the Federation, Mohammed Adoke, bail to the sum of 50 million naira with one surety in like sum. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, rearraigned Mr. Adoke on fresh money laundering charges. He was arraigned alongside Mr. Aliyu Abubakar, who was accused of paying dollar equivalent of 300 million naira to the former AGF, that's the Attorney General's account in September 2013 in violation of the Money Laundering Act. The former Justice Minister pleaded not guilty to the charges, with his lawyer arguing his bail application and informing the court that he would prefer to stay at the Kuje Correctional Center than in custody of the EFCC. Ms. Adoke was released by the Dubai police in December 2019 after he decided to return to Nigeria to face the allegations against him.
The road to freedom for former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice appears to be hazy, as the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission on Monday rearraigned him and his co-defendant, Aliyu Abubakar, before the Federal High Court in Abuja on fresh money laundering charges. They were arraigned on 7-count charges, with Mr. Adoke having 6 counts, while Mr. Abubakar had 1 count preferred against him, in respect of the Malibu oil scam. They, however, pleaded not guilty to the 7-count charge. With a plea of not guilty, Justice Murtala Nyako granted bail to the defendants on the same conditions earlier imposed by an Abuja High Court. The judge notes that even though the case filed before Justice Idris Kutigi and the one before her are different suits, both courts are of coordinate jurisdiction. She, however, ordered the EFCC to deposit Mr. Adoke's passport at the FCT High Court in Gwagwalada. The prosecutor defends the new charges, while the lawyer to the second defendant claims the charges are the same.
Theft is not the same thing as money laundering. The reason why we are filing charges before the Federal High Court is because under the Money Laundering Prohibition Act, it clearly states that it's the Federal High Court that has jurisdiction in respect of money laundering cases and offenses committed under the Money Laundering Prohibition Act.
Well, basically, the charge before the FCT High Court is in the nature of alleged giving of and receipt of gratification. Whereas the charge here has to do with the alleged count of money laundering, the same amount of 300 million naira alleged to have been offered and received as gratification is the same 300 million naira that is subject matter of this money laundering count.
After admitting the defendants to bail, the court fixed April 1st and 2nd for the commencement of trial.
And to security matters, the president has commiserated with families of victims of the attack, assuring them that his administration will continually frustrate the devilish operations of Boko Haram. The statement's coming from the presidency, where President Buhari condemned what he described as the murderous and cowardly attack on innocent passengers by terrorists near Maiduguri. He also condoled with the Borno state government, warning that terrorists are clearly on the back foot and their days are numbered. President Buhari also assured the international community of his administration's commitment to securing the release of all children and all victims of abduction by terrorists in Nigeria. The president renewed this pledge at a high-level breakfast dialogue during a side event at the 33rd AU Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Now we take a closer look at the issues raised, and this is by the statement of the president and indeed what Nigerians should expect. Joining me via Skype is a security consultant, Mr. Kabiru Adamu. Always a pleasure to have you join us on the program. I must start by asking, Nigeria's president has promised to continually frustrate the goal of terrorists to hold Nigeria to ransom, insisting that their days are numbered. And just before yesterday, heard the army saying that they were on top of everything, and then we saw and heard the incident outside of Maiduguri. I mean, are you confident the positive statements coming from our president?
Yes, as a president, he should speak that language. He should indicate to Nigerians his desire and willingness to galvanize ever power that the country has to end terrorism. But on the other hand, when you see and hear the kind of things that occurred in Auno overnight, then it's quite unfortunate. And then another unfortunate part of all the development is the disagreement between the governor and the theater commander regarding the number of people that were killed. That does not send a very reassuring message to Nigerians. So the statement, yes, it's good. It's coming at a time when Nigerians are expecting that type of reassurance. But I think what is more important is for Nigerians to see the president engaging with the military leadership, with the governors, and then meeting especially the victims and giving some kind of support. When crises like that occur, you want to first sympathize, you want to reassure, and then you want to offer assistance. So Nigerians have listened to the reassurance, but we also need to hear some form of assistance and support going to the victims.
But looking at, the angle of the state governor, only yesterday, I mean, he cried out saying that it appeared the Nigerian military had withdrawn. He said that they made several attempts for the Nigerian military to establish their unit, but nothing was done. Do we have a security structure that appears to leave the state governors in a helpless situation, crisis of this kind? Because we also saw this with the Benue state governor, the farmer herders crisis.
Yes, the state government seems to be distanced from the current security architecture, even though it's a bit difficult to understand why that is, because there is a state and they meet all the leadership of the security agencies in the country. But because they do not have the power to direct them, I think it makes it very difficult. In particular, with the military, given the structure that the military has, the theater commander would not take any directive from the governor. However, we know that he's able to influence some of their activities. The governor of Borno State has introduced some state-level initiatives. He's given vehicles to the military. He's also done a lot in terms of galvanizing the support of the local populace for the military. But having said that, I don't think he's very satisfied with what the military is currently doing in Borno State. And that, unfortunately, puts a brick wall to the effort of the military to end the insurgency. There is no way you can win an insurgency if you do not have the hearts and minds of the affected population. And clearly, what we saw yesterday is an indication that the people are not generally behind what the military is doing. So I think there is a need for the military to change that strategy, know that they are fighting for the people, and whatever the people want. If the governor wants a base, or call it a super camp in Auno, then the military should make that effort. If they cannot have a super camp in Auno, then they should be able to explain to the governor why they cannot have a super camp. Because at the end of the day, they need to win the hands and minds of the people, and that is not happening currently.
Northern Elders Forum indicted the Buhari-led administration. They also talked about the level of poverty in the north that they say is rising in relation to the insecurity. But some argue, that seeing what happened in the northern region in terms of the poverty didn't happen overnight. And looking at successive governments, perhaps this is something that was building up. What's your response to how we can tie this together, the nexus between the poverty gap and then fueling insecurity, especially in the northeast?
Yes, there is a nexus between, economic deprivation and lack of empowerment, the disenfranchisement of women and other vulnerable populations, and insecurity. This is documented, and the current government has even spoken about that. And I'm aware that as part of their effort to revamp security, they're looking at the economy. If you recall, when the revised National Security Strategy document 2019 was released, the idea is to improve the economy, empower especially vulnerable populations, and reduce the level of poverty and illiteracy in the north. However, I'm a bit concerned that all of this is left at the policy level. We're not seeing in practical terms an implementation of some of these policies. And like you rightly said, these are issues that started over the years. They didn't happen just in one day. And so to keep taking care of them would require the effort of both the federal, the state, and local government, as well as our international partners. I know that the focus of security under the revised National Security Strategy is to remove security from the state and sort of hand it over to the citizens. And so the only way we would see an advancement of this economic security, as it were, is by moving from the state-centric approach and taking it down to the people. And so the involvement of the governors is really crucial. And I'm really, really worried that that is not happening at the moment. If we look at the reasons why the 2014 National Security Strategy failed, it's really an issue of implementation. So if the new National Security Strategy 2019 is going to work, then that implementation needs to be improved upon. And this is the moment to do it. Bring it down to the state level and to the community levels.
Finally, Mr. Adamu, the president also on the sidelines of the AU summit talked about, made the promise indeed to the international community of his administration's commitment to securing the release of all children and those abducted. And I know that the world is still wondering about Leah Sharibu and others like her. And that's on the one hand. And on the other hand, we're wondering, looking at the international community relating to, in reaction to these attacks, even though one might want to argue that it affects one part of the country, it clearly affects all of us. What do you think the perception is, and how worried should we be?
Well, as you're aware, terrorism is a global issue, and unfortunately, it's at the forefront of a lot of discussions. I know that at the moment, a lot of companies, corporations, even governments will not allow their citizens to come to certain parts of Nigeria. If you look at the advisory, travel advice by the US, by the UK, by Australia, Canada, name them, the terrorism, banditry, kidnapping is highlighted clearly there. So that's sort of the effect that I think that is having in terms of our perception by the international community. Then, of course, the depravity of this group when they kidnap young girls. Leah Sharibu was in her school. She was abducted by, this group, and till today she's still in their hands. And the only reason they're holding her, from our understanding, is because of her faith. So very condemnable. And then if you look at, of course, the Chibok girls, the same thing happened. So that type of development and activities does not augur well for Nigeria's image within the international community. Even though the UN, I think, has been working very closely with Nigeria, and on the sidelines of the meeting yesterday, Nigeria was commended, the Buhari administration was commended for working with the UN to release some child soldiers that were working with the civilian JTF. So on the one hand, you've got some positive actions by the government, and then on the other hand, you've got these unfortunate incidences that, like the Leah Sharibu case, the Chibok girls, that have dented the image of the government. So on the whole, I think we need to do more to protect, especially our vulnerable citizens, including school children. There are several initiatives out there, but we're not seeing the results of those initiatives. So if we want to take our place in the International Committee of Nations, there's a need to improve on our current delivery of this type of promises and standards.
And our security consultant, Kabir Adamu, always a pleasure having you join us on the program.
And thank you.
Our website, channelstv.com, has more on those stories and more stories. You definitely want to log on. I'd like to thank you for watching Lunchtime Politics at this time. I'm Millicent Walker.